Hey all, today we have a very interesting discussion on NADH and NAD+, which you may have heard in the last couple of years. It's becoming all the rage. In fact, David Sinclair was on Joe Rogan just the other day again talking about this and other anti-aging interventions, and he has been on several times before. So I might add in some clips here when I'm editing this. But in any case, I'm here today to talk to Warren, my pal in New Zealand, the founder and owner of Xtend-Life, and he's gotten involved in this whole science as well. So great to see you again, Warren.
Good to be back again with you, Ivor.
Excellent. Yeah, it's been a little while. We've all been so busy. But you are, I would have thought recently getting very interested in this for obvious reasons because it's so topical. But I think you, quite a while back, were looking at this whole space. I only actually began to get involved in it around a year ago.
Actually, there's two obvious reasons. One, of course, is that the science related to NAD plus has really come a long way, particularly in the last couple of years. But I have another reason as well, in the respect that I'm going to be 74 next week, and although I'm in really good health because of the supplement regimes that I follow, I'm always looking at something to put a little bit of icing on top as such. And I first became interested in NAD back in fact, 17 years ago, because when we developed a product which was called Total Balance, we had one of the most brilliant bioscientists in the world involved, a professor, Dr. Munham Dow. He's now retired. Anyway, Munham actually talked about NAD at that particular stage, but at that point there was no way to actually get it, and so we looked at the possibility of maybe using NADH, and then incorporating it in one of our products, but that ended up hitting a sort of the dead end.
Yeah, and actually that's an interesting one because we talked about this. It could have been in 19 or maybe early 20, and I did a few deep dives on the whole NADH, NAD plus kind of axis, and I kind of discovered what you had seen back earlier, that the NADH may not be at all the optimum thing to take as a supplement, even when you can protect it from being deactivated as it goes into your digestive tract. It's actually not the ideal thing to add. That the really important thing would be to add a precursor to NAD+, whether that's NMN or NR, which we're going to talk about, but not the NADH. Yet many people sold NADH supplements like for a long, long time, but the science would suggest they're probably just going to confuse your system, if anything.
Actually, that's completely right. In fact, I didn't know, that the NADH would be problematic from a point of view of the NAD plus. And there was a company in Austria, a scientist over there, who had developed a stabilized form of NADH. And so I went over to see the scientist over in Austria, and they had their facility up in the Austrian Alps, really nice place. Spent a day with them, and came back really excited about it. And I thought, well, hey, this could be a very good product to use. And then at that stage, then we commissioned various people, and I know you did some work for us on this one, to look into the whole mechanism of the NADH. And bottom line is that there were too many question marks related to it. So consequently, we put it on hold. And even though I actually had some of the ingredients and the product, and I started taking it myself, I actually discontinued it because there were just too many question marks that it could potentially do more harm than good. So it was shelved. And then it wasn't until just recently that, as new science sort of came to light, that we took the whole matter up again.
Yeah, that's it. And I remember when you flagged this to me, I kind of, as usual, I like to be independent. So I independently dug into it. And I also had a pal in South Africa, Robert Miller, who's an absolute encyclopedia on the NADH, NAD plus cycle. And he verified the same thing. And I also found other data that the NADH will, in a sense, without getting into too much detail, almost confuse your body into perceiving it's in a fed state. So it's actually problematic. It could even suppress NAD plus in an active form that would be beneficial. So very problematic kind of thing to get into. So you dodged a bullet on that one, I think.
Yes, I think so. And last year we actually added another researcher uh, to our staff, Dr. Amanda Wiggins, and she spent a long time getting right into the science. And she's one of these people who really enjoys looking at clinical data, whereas I find that a little bit boring. But she gets right into the detail and reconfirms some of the things that you had seen in the respect that the NADH, all these complicated Krebs cycles and so forth, which I don't profess to understand the detail of, but it was pretty apparent that if you take NADH, you're likely to suppress your natural natural levels of NAD plus. So that's what started us on the track down to what is going to be the best way to, in fact, raise our NAD plus levels in the body.
Yeah. And again, the only way to do that in any realistic sense is to supply precursors that can get into the actual cell and then become part of that kind of cycle. And there was, I think, NMN, and then, of course, there's NR, nicotinamide riboside, chloride. Now, the NMN, I've seen quite a lot of heavy hitting people really pushing the idea, and with quite a bit of data, that the NMN may not be able to get into the cell in an active form, in spite of claims that that's the case. And it would appear the preponderance of the data is the best possible route to enhancing NAD plus and DNA repair and all of the other energy related things, and the sirtuin family as well of DNA repair. The best possible way would be via the route of NR. But that's only one component in what you have managed to develop with Amanda over the past 6 to 12 months. You're actually going for a synergy of multiple components that complement each other. So maybe we should talk a little about the NR, the nicotinamide riboside, and then just go briefly through some of the other elements that's in this NR6 kind of combined product.
Yeah, that's correct, Ivor. We spent a lot of time, in fact, Amanda spent a lot of time looking at all the data related to the NR versus NMN. And there is not 100% agreement with all the various scientists involved. Some scientists believe that the NMN is the best option, and others think that NR is the best. And sometimes, of course, it sort of ties back to what are their financial sort of interests related to it. But in any case, they're both good substances. I don't think there's any question about that. But after Amanda did all this work on it, she came up with a suggestion that the NR had the greatest level of science behind it in terms of its efficacy, and of course this issue of being able to cross over the blood-brain barrier and so forth seemed to be in favor of the NR. We were in a position that we could in fact do either. We could access both the NR and the NMN, so we had no bias. But on the strength of all the documentation that and the research has been done, we opted to go for the NR. But we didn't stop there, because there are a number of people which have companies which have NR on the market and NMN, but we wanted to try and make it a bit better as we try and do when we're doing any supplement, can we make a better mousetrap? So we went a stage further and then added in resveratrol, which most people are familiar with, but a good dose of it. So in actual fact, there's 200 milligrams in the each capsule, although that has 100 milligrams of the actual active resveratrol in it. And just as a point on that, it is possible to have a 98% pure resveratrol. We opted for the 50% because there are other components in the resveratrol that also can add to the overall efficacy. So what we did, instead of putting in 100 milligrams of, say, a 98% pure product, we put in 200 of the 50%, so we can get the other components of the resveratrol included. But didn't stop there, because one of the things that Amanda was able to dig up in all her research was that when you take NR, it creates it has an impact on methylation, which we won't go into now, but it's a very important process in the body. And so we added something further in to help the body from a methylation point of view, which was the DMG, or dimethylglycine. And that in itself, on its own, could be quite effective, but it could be made more effective by adding some folate in vitamin B12 as well. And then to help with the overall bioavailability of the resveratrol, then we added in some piperine, which is a form of black pepper, which helps once again for the bioavailability. So instead of just having a single ingredient, the NR, we ended up with 6 ingredients, and hence that's how we came up with the name NR6.
Appropriately named. Well, it actually reminds me of CX8, the heart and calcification prevention product. Again, a similar thing, synergy, complementary elements, and like a better mousetrap than simply grabbing the ingredient and putting a bit of margin after manufacturing and development and shipping, and then that's it. I think most products on the market, though, they kind of take the easy route. They basically get just the NR, or maybe add in one more. Is that generally the case?
Yes, it is generally the case, but then a lot depends on who your sort of target market is. In our case, and this has always been the case, for the last 20 years, we've just catered for a niche market. We tend to go for the I hate to say it, but the educated supplement buyer that can understand or wants to know the science behind it. And so consequently, and they're in the minority. I mean, the general majority of people, of course, go for some of the products which are mass marketed. And of course, what happens in those cases, they're actually cater, or at least the products cater, if you like, for the lowest possible denominator. So you can still get some effectiveness, but maybe not the last bit, which can often make the difference in overall efficacy.
Well, yeah, and to be honest, that kind of group of being more educated or data-centric would kind of suit me as well. That's probably why we struck it off. But in any case, we wanted to keep this one relatively short, and I think we might circle back in a few weeks, because I'm going to do some more research on this, and we might do a more detailed treatment and also include more clips from Sinclair, etc. But in the meantime, we'll put all of your information, references, Amanda's work in the description box below, so people can check it out themselves. And I guess it's always worth saying, and Robert Milner in South Africa, the expert on this, there's always a preference that you do fasting, you do low carb, you do lots of exercise, you get great sleep, and you minimize stress. All of that is in your power to do, of course. But this really, and products like this, are enhancers. And, they'll help with people who are not so good at doing the hardcore fasts, right? For anti-aging and for methylation and for DNA repair, not to take an easy way out, but people who have the means, it adds to your anti-aging overall artillery. But people really should be doing all the right stuff that I've been saying for years as well. So just always important to drop that point in.
Oh, look, totally concur with you on that. As a matter of fact, you sent me some material from Robert Miller, and he obviously really knows his stuff, and he's obviously very dedicated. But the reality is, how many of us are? I mean, I try and sort of do all the right things as much as possible, but hey, it's not perfect, and we need that extra helping hand. That's why I'm such a nutter, if you like, when it comes to my supplement regime, because it helps offset some of the things that I don't do, because like I try and do that intermittent fasting, but then you might have a functional something on, or going to see some friends, it throws it all out the window. So none of us are perfect in that regard. Maybe Robert is, but sure as hell I'm not, and I'm sure that most people are not. And so this is just another tool in the toolbox to help from a general health span point of view. Because at the end of the day, okay, longevity is important. I'm sort of 74 next week. I'd like to have another, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 years. I don't know, but the actual length is less important than the health span component of it, because I'm getting a new boat built at the present time. I want to be able to sail it offshore. No point in just being alive if in fact you haven't got the health and the energy to be able to get out there and do the things you want to do. And this is something which will sort of help me do that, because when you look at that that graph on how the NAD plus goes down as you age, I mean, I'm at the point now on that graph that hey, I've probably got no NAD plus left, but I'm sure I have, because the whole regime which I've been on for the last 20 years has probably helped. So it's probably a bit better than the normal. But then when you look at the graph of the DNA damage go up, so it's just another tool for the toolbox.
Yep, perfect. And actually, I'll show that graph as well when I'm just putting this together on the screen. In fact, it'll be showing now. And it's quite striking how the process of aging, NAD plus effectively collapses. And then alongside that, you see the DNA damage that increases inexorably. So it's just a matter of, or not just a matter, but it's just the focus should be on pushing those graphs, away from where a modern kind of processed food eating person is going to be on those particular plots, and pushing as far away as possible, and just extending that active, energetic life as far as you possibly can. So that's what it's for people who have the means to kind of push everything you have at the challenge of aging. And of course, lack of energy as well is a huge thing as we age, and that actually accelerates the process of decline. Anyway, pretty negative stuff I'm saying here, but we might finish on a positive note. Your 74th birthday is coming up next week, and this one is kind of for yourself. This is a personal thing, but it'll be available to everyone, which is fantastic.
Yes, not only just for myself, but also for my wife as well, because she's 73. And just a point of interest on that before we go, Ivor, is that we did some blood tests just recently, and sent them over to a lab, a specialized lab in the States, to check on telomere lengths. And as you know, with telomeres, that can be a measurement of biological age. And we both, my wife and myself, had some blood taken, sent over. Unfortunately, the lab lost my blood, so I don't know my results, but we got Lois's back, and she's 73, and they came back with a comment they've never seen anything like it, because she came in at a biological age of 39, and they've never ever seen a result as good as that. I suspect it may be due to the fact that we've both been on total balance for 20 years. So things are pretty good overall, but I'm picking with this other new addition to help with the NAD plus, it's going to make it even better. So we'll see. I've had having to send another lot of blood myself to find out, what age I, came in at. Hopefully it'll be pretty good and I don't make a fool of myself and find that it's not so good. But we'll see. I'll let you know what the outcome is on that.
Well, the thing we can be sure of at least is you're an honest broker. So even if it's disappointing, you'll be straight up about it. But and the other thing for people watching as well, in fairness, Lois is also excellently slim and well preserved for her age. So not too much gluttony over the years, or no smoking or bad practices, and all of that's going to help a bit as well with telomere shortening. So great to hear though. They're fantastic results. So I guess we'll circle back in a couple of weeks. We'll do a bigger version, and I'm going to dig into this deeper also in the interim. I'm going to make some space for that and get well into it like Amanda did.
Well, look, I look forward to that, Ivor, and so catch up with you later.
Perfect, Warren. Have a good one over in New Zealand. And here in Ireland, the weather is actually surprisingly okay in the last couple of weeks. So I'm getting that tan in, as you can see, even though we're in cloudy Ireland. And another way to stop aging.
Yeah, I totally agree with the sunshine. We haven't been getting much of it lately. So we've been getting your weather over here. So hopefully they'll start changing shortly. Okay, well, in that case, we'll catch up with you later.
Great stuff, Warren. Good luck, man. Cheers. Bye.
Bye now.